Hello, everyone. The ISO 222 mandate, another particular update in that regard. And how about this? Will the ISO 222 coins and tokens do 1 million plus TPS? Well, for me, the answer is yes. Not all of the ISO 222 coins and tokens have a BIS partnership. Smash that like, consider sticking to the end of the outline. If you choose to do so, there's chapters. Let's jump into what we have, why it matters, and let's face it, these coins being able to do 1 million plus TPS, transactions per second, that would be game changer. As we know, BSV does 1 million plus TPS with Terranode. So why not own both? That's my stance, not financial advice. But again, let's get into it. First thing we're going to pull up actually is this. It's a particular gentleman. He is this person coming up on your screen. Why point him out? Well, what you're going to see right here is from this company called Convera. Now, not many people watch this. It's back in 2023. But it's the whole idea of bridging the way a multi-CBDC world would be with Daniel Eidan of the Bank for International Settlements. Now, in this, he gets into the nitty-gritty about the whole idea of this concept of a more transparent payment across borders and how the BIS notes that questions remain unanswered, at least then, related to policy considerations, legal and regulatory frameworks, so on and so forth. He joined Money 2020's Mickey Tesfaye and also, of course, Daniel Eidan, who's the advisor and solution architect at the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub. They discussed the Bank for International Settlements' ongoing work with central banks to address the pain points unique to cross-border payments. All right, I've gone ahead and taken the liberty of listening to this about, I would say, 1.5 times. I fast forward to this key area of discussion. We're going to get into why this matters and tie everything else into the bigger picture and why you really want to hear this if you're a holder of these particular coins and tokens. People are telling you that ISO 222, that ship has sailed. How about this? How about the ship never sailed at all? How about it's never even left the port? Think about that for a moment. All right, let's go ahead and play this. We'll come back here shortly. Here we go. Pay attention to the guy on the far left from the BIS, by the way.
What role, if any, I mean, you talk about bridge currencies, obviously, the USD has served that role primarily for a lot of different countries. Do you see a scenario where or what sort of value might digital assets, stablecoins, CBDCs provide in improving that role of the bridge currency? Do you see them being big game changers in terms of this idea of a bridge currency when we have these digital assets in play more, and they're actually being if they're being more taken more seriously by the largest central banks around the world? Do you see them playing a serious role in those technological advances that might mitigate these problems?
So in supporting the functionality of the bridge currency?
Right, yep.
It's interesting. I mean, I'll give you an example. We released this week a project called Project Mariana. And in this project, we looked specifically at, we envision a world where CBDCs exist. And we took 3 economies, Singapore, France, and Switzerland, and pooled their CBDCs in a common kind of offshore pool that was an automated market maker. And in that automated market maker, all the currencies could trade against each other. So I bring that example as like a serious departure from the way we think about foreign exchange today. Maybe, I mean, there's a lot of value moving around in the crypto ecosystem in that type of in these type of structures. Maybe that's something that's attractive for central banks moving forward, and we're really just starting to scratch the surface of those type of tools. So my intuition is that technology is only a part of it. Technology can open up new realms of possibilities. You know, the US dollar isn't the US dollar only because of technology, right? It has many, many other facets to it. The depth of the markets, the rule of law, many, many things create the trust in the US dollar that you have that exists around the world.
Yeah.
I think as the technology advances, and technology is a part of this. I don't want to minimize the technology component of this, but the technology in general is kind of equally accessible to everyone. Maybe there's slight variations in form factors. So my sense is that that rising tide will kind of lift all the ships, and the competition will likely be in things that are a little bit softer. Let's call them. So, you know, I don't think you decide which bills you use based on the fabric and the feel and what they look like. I mean, at the end of the day, it's where you live and what you have access to. But even if you could choose, it's more about which central banks you engage with, where you're doing most of your business activity, and that's the currency that you choose to deal in, right? So it's a very, very practical thing. So my sense is, you know, this, I don't think it's a zero-sum game between bridging structures or direct structures. I think there's a lot of space for cross-border payments, and you know, you asked about digital assets as well. So as we create more and more type of digital assets, as we maybe tokenize our deposits, maybe hold certain types of stable coins for payment needs that are very, very specific, my sense is that all of these things will bloom.
Towards the beginning of what the gentleman from the BIS on the far left mentioned, Daniel, by the way, is the whole thing of Project Mariana. Okay, I want to get into why that's important. So as I pull this up on your screen, you're going to see this. And again, it's from the BIS on the citation. Project Mariana was developed jointly by 3 BIS Innovation Hub Centers, the Swiss, Singapore, and Eurosystem Hub Centers, together with Banque de France, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and of course the Swiss National Bank. The project's proof of concept successfully tested the cross-border trading and settlement of hypothetical euro, Singapore dollar, and Swiss franc wholesale CBDCs between simulated financial institutions. The process relied on 3 elements. Number 1, a common technical token standard. Please pay attention to that terminology. Provided by a public blockchain to facilitate, focus on the word facilitate or facilitation, exchange and interoperability between the different currencies. Again, shout out to our brother Channing. How do you say quant without saying quant? Think about it. And more importantly, the whole concept of quant being blockchain agnostic. Number 2, bridges for the seamless transfer of wholesale CBDCs between different networks. How can that be achieved? With full interoperability, and again, with something that would be a blockchain agnostic. Enter in quant once again, because let's face it, they're basically like the Microsoft of blockchain. They are an operating system. And then number 3, enter into something like Ripple XRP, an automated market maker. Think about Ripple's automated market maker, which is a specific type of decentralized exchange to trade and settle spot FX transactions automatically. Again, Ripple stands out in this regard because of real-time gross settlements. Moving forward or further into the outline, that guy that you saw, he was wearing glasses at the time, Daniel Eidan. He's an advisor of the BIS Innovation Hub over in Switzerland. I don't know if you guys saw the report. I'll get more into it in a different outline, but QNT basically being rebranded. We'll get more into that a little bit later, but the emphasis on it is going from quant to saying QNT, and again, Switzerland. That's an outline for another day. And yeah, it has been reported by other people, but again, worth pointing out. Because when we see people like Daniel Eidan, you can appreciate that he's been at some key events. November 21st of 2024, Tokenization Summit, and again, a panel that discussed the future of money, prospects for CBDCs, stable coins, so on and so forth. But it's not just him from the BIS. You see, for example, Diego Bowen ALGO from Clifford Chance. How many times has Clifford Chance literally hosted Quant and some other people? I think they even did a silver event, if I'm not mistaken. And what do you also see? You see Xiaonan Zhu, Head of Innovation and Digital Assets, UBS Group Treasury, and of course, Basak Toprak, EMEA, Head of Coin Systems over at Onyx by JP Morgan. So, big players, at these events that kind of, let's face it, fly under the radar. All right, back to the whole thing of that particular PDF I pulled up earlier. If you're wondering where that came from, it was last summer of 2024. It's Citra's Memorandum, Understanding the Role of Tokenization in the Data Economy. And the reason why I pull this up, because in that same breath of air, well, we see things like this. And that is the ISO TC307 blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. Because when you get into that, well, you understand, again, quant network's role in that regard, because that is their particular standard. So I pull this up a little bit more. This key area, and again, it's probably a little bit more into the outline, this concept of the M0, we'll get more into the M10 here in a bit, but it's bank money. M0, if you're not aware of it, is the safest form of settlement asset available to our society. Shout out to Quant Papa for some of these visuals, like this particular one. Why get into it? Well, basically, like it says in the visual, it's a strong canopy that supports the global monetary ecosystem. In this particular PDF screenshot from the BIS, you see on the bottom, API, Application Programming Interface, CBDC equals Central Bank Digital Currency, PSP is Payment Service Provider. And again, kind of like how it's all coming together, orchestrated, whatever you want to refer to it as. Smart contracts, autonomous wallets, tokenized deposits, as Daniel mentioned. But again, the flow of open banking, cash, credit cards, you get the gist. And a mirror of both, if anything, a two system or basically come together to get a multi-CBDC platform. What would be that multi-CBDC platform for both retail and even wholesale CBDCs? Don't overthink about it. I think you already know the answer. So we get more into this, another visualization from Quant Papa. A metaphor, central bank as tree trunks supporting a diverse ecosystem. As you see here, it's the whole idea of central bank money. Central bank money code is basically the M0. You see how it kicks it over to APIs, the private sector, and how everything else comes into the bigger picture. Well, again, just in case you missed it, central bank money M0. Because when we get further into this whole thing, well, I want you to understand how we come to some other particular things in the outline about a core ledger. The core ledger, if you're not aware of it, records the transactions and account balances between, of course, banks and the users of the system. Basically has hierarchy, but it's the nature that allows it to be highly configurable to mimic how current banking relationships work today, but with the advantage of instant settlement for real-time payments via the shared ledger. So the key is, yes, we understand, even with things like BSV, they boast the whole idea of, like, one ledger, and I get that, especially when it comes to like the internet. There's one internet. We don't want to go back to the days of CompuServe and walled gardens and silos, but the core ledger addresses the challenges of high transaction throughput to handle sustained peak payment volumes. And if anything, I'll blow this up a little bit more because I want you guys to see how it says literally high transaction throughput to handle sustained peak payment volumes. The control of M0 money, again, back to central bank money, if you're wondering what the code is, money supply by the central bank, and M1 money by commercial banks. Well, what would that lead to? It leads to the thing that some of you guys from the X space DM me about doing a proper outline. I've talked about this before, but not to this depth. The M10's ledger, if you're not aware of it, is a custom practical Byzantine fault-tolerant ledger. Without getting too nerdy about this, understand that it is capable of processing 1 million plus payment transactions per second. Not up to 1 million plus, excuse me, not up to 1 million, but literally 1 million plus. So could it get scale from here? I think the answer is yes, but still that's incredibly impressive. Again, from what we've seen in the past, the only thing that would come in this, particular realm would be something like BSV. So my concept again is to own both, but again, I'm not complaining about 1 million TPS. I think it's going to more than get it done. So, all right, we can see how this comes together. We're not going to get too much into that, but again, it's these particular statements. And if you're wondering, where does this come from? Actually comes again from a particular screenshot from the BIS. Taking more further into this, I got to shrink this down just a tad bit. I want to put some more emphasis again on the material and why it matters. So if you're not aware, a turnkey system, I know this is somewhat verbatim, but you need to understand this. So for a turnkey system, M10 has developed a core system with 6 components needed to run a CBDC or modern payment system. Each of the components serves as an essential function, as horizontally scalable based on its load. All right. Well, in the center, you see some of the, again, terminology, and on this area, I'll blow this up for you, because you see 2 areas. The bank administration client application software development kit, and also that mobile client application software development kit, SDK. All right, where does the ledger come involved? Well, talking to the API gateway. Well, it's safe to say that when it comes to quant and the overledger, you know their role. And we'll get into some of these other coins and tokens, I promise. But identity management, again, understanding that at the core of that ledger, 1 million TPS, 1 million plus. And here's your aha moment. I'll blow this up a little bit more. It's this area about the service module coming from external data, messaging, sanctions, ISO 222, etc. Higher level architecture. So ISO 222, that's interesting. And we'll get into why, again, that is so interesting. Because when we go over to this M10.io white paper of the M10, on page 28 of 28, you see plain as day that there's key benefits in regards to the M10 solution. Number 1, control of M0 money. Again, code for central bank money. And that's supplied by the central bank and M1 money by commercial banks. Will this lead to high transaction throughput of 1 million plus TPS? Yes. Will that handle sustained peak payment volumes? Yes. Let's talk about that for a brief moment. Because again, I, as in Max of Maximus Crypto, have to have the same user experience as Alice and Jesse and Bob and Frank and Mike and, Tim and Tommy and all those other particular people. One user can't be throttled, because if they are, then what about others? And what about other people at peak volumes? We can't have these oh crap moments happening all the time. If anything, look at Solana. It does go down. But this is the big money moving forward. As we get more into this, I want you to see here that it's all about real-time payments, entering things like Ripple XRP, Stellar XLM, Hedera, etc., Algorand. But it's the settlement of equities in milliseconds. Share ledger access and connectivity between financial institutions, data privacy protection. Again, think about quant, and then security, things like that. But again, emphasis on the bottom part about extensible platform to connect, think about the platform and the connection with external services. ISO 222. For me, it's that orchestration of how that comes together. And again, taking you to some of the other key areas. Because some people ask or have stated that it's all going to be about what the United States does and only them, and that will be different. Well, how would it be different? I mean, here's the thing. I see some of you guys in the comments, like, you'll say QNT is not United States based. Again, are you sure about that? We covered that in the other previous video. Why make something fully interoperable if it's not interoperable with the whole internet? Have you been doing more of your own extensive research to understand that particular concept? And I say that politely. So as you see here, again, some of this orchestration, if you will, or relationships within a ledger. Does the US dollar ledger match the one for Europe? Well, for me, the answer is literally yes, right across the board, as you see right here. So for me, it's understanding that when we talk about central bank money and the M10 do 1 million TPS, why would it just be exclusive to things like the United States or Europe? Again, we're talking about the internet here. We talk about Web 3 moving forward. We're not there yet. We're at Web 2.5, 2.7. But I like some of these statements. Look at what it says here in regards to this from the BIS. It says specifically, and I'll take you over to it actually from the real PDF. It's from economics.mit.edu. Actually, on this particular one, the BIS has also done one. It's about multi-currency exchange and contracting platform. And it's page 9 of 57. Again, I want you to see this. So, a lot of this I will read verbatim up until, I think, line 19. Swift was the innovation that created a common standard, we know that, for messaging payment requests relative to the fragmented systems that preceded it. Gilbert Verdian has talked about this. Swift has more recently introduced a basic tracker to let clients know where the request for payment lies. Think about that for a moment. Next part is understanding how that is involved in regards to domestic and international correspondent banks. But I'm going to jump down to this part. There's things like Buna, there's the TIP system, there's JOMO. How many times have we heard about Nexus? They aim to interlink fast payments across borders. And look at this example in regards to Visa and MasterCard. How many times do we see key things with Stellar, Hedera, Quant, all right, with partnerships and so on, especially Stellar. Visa and MasterCard are global retail cards. Visa, B2B, bank to bank, by the way, Connect, and MasterCard track business payment services, and they offer businesses with Visa Direct for remittances. And I'll talk a little bit of actually about Stronghold coming up here in a bit. But I like how it literally mentions, for example, Stellar and Ripple. Why? Because Bank of Thailand, Hong Kong Monetary Authority also have been developing this thing called Inthenon Lion Rock Project. It allows the conversion of depository receipts into wholesale CBDCs, and it uses DLT solutions with smart contracts for multi-asset liquidity. Where does it mention Ripple? Well, or Stellar? This gets good. It says the programming of other contracts is not yet featured, though Inthenon did a pilot bond lifecycle management and DVP, which means delivery versus payment, for interbank repo trading. With Project Enbridge, under the auspices of the BIS, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to some of this stuff, and with the addition of China and Saudi Arabia, this now includes 4 countries. And for example, there's JP Morgan, DBS, Temasek with Parser, Santander with Ripple, yes, I said Ripple, and Citibank with the M10. Now, some people have asked, is there an M10 connection with the regulated liability network? And the answer is right here. Boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. Citi's Regulated Liability Network, RLN, and M10's project features the tokenization and exchange of private sector regulated liabilities. That is a broader class of assets beyond tokenized central bank reserves. That is profound. So for me, when we get further into it, we're going to name some of these ones that are directly tied to BIS. It's not just about the ones that are ISO 222, but directly tied to the BIS. That is so important. All right, let's cover something that you are not possibly aware of. And basically, it's this in my notes. Since Ripple, XRP, Stellar XLM, Hedera, and other ISO coins and tokens are ISO 222 compliant, in theory, they could scale up to 1 million transactions per second plus if they were in partnership with the Bank for International Settlements, because, for one, the M0, which is basically the code for central banks, and of course, what the BIS has in regards to that M10 for 1 million plus TPS. So in theory, could we see cryptocurrencies like XRP, Stellar, HBAR, et cetera, being ISO 222 compliant, but would that blanket them to leverage the high transaction throughput of the M10 for real-time settlement capabilities, of course, envision in this outline that we discussed in regards to the M10? Well, for me, in theory, yes. But let me give you a breakdown. So it's compliance. Compliance with what? ISO 222. How? The whole concept, everybody, about shared standard facilitating interoperability between different systems. All right. Would that include traditional finance? Yes. Would that include like other cryptocurrencies are tied into it that attach itself to the legacy systems or provide interoperability? Yes. Will this ensure seamless data exchange and reduce friction in cross-border transactions? Yes. All right. What about the potential for the M10? The M10's potential aims for high transaction speeds, of course, and real-time settlement. Well, if that's the case, wouldn't that rival things like, in my opinion, don't shoot the messenger, real Bitcoin, original Bitcoin, BSV? I know a lot of you guys are not on board with that, but that's okay. I focus on the tech, not if who's the real Satoshi and so on. But whatever the case be, would that compliance allow for integration? Again, the answer for me is yes, because it would enable faster, more efficient transactions. Again, back to what Daniel said in the outline. You have to have the efficiency. Again, maybe that part wasn't part of the whole thing. I didn't want to play a full 45 minutes, but if you want to watch that, you can check that out. And if anything, he gets more into, it's not going to just be fragmented, or let's test this on this amount of TPS and then we'll go up a little bit. Let's test this and go up a little bit. No, he mentioned specifically that they're just going to go straight up and do it at a high throughput. So that's huge, right? And yes, I get it. Ripple XRP is like what, 1,500, 3,000 TPS. Same with Stellar. Hedera takes the cake. It competes as far as TPS, like with Solana, around roughly 28, 30,000 TPS and so on. And that might be more than enough to get it done in regards to what they're trying to do. But if we're talking about full-scale mass adoption, getting the whole world behind us, well, wouldn't it make more sense to do 1 million TPS? For me, the answer is yes, because it's reaching a broader financial ecosystem. All right, well, there's going to be hurdles along the way and so on, but let's take you over to this particular publication straight from the BIS. Why? Well, again, it's this whole area about what's referred to as harmonization. Okay, this is from bis.org, CPMI, and it says from the BIS, with most of the world's payment systems adopting specifically ISO 222, well, what do you see? It's by 2025, literally coming up soon. The coming years will be crucial for converging on a harmonized use of the messaging standard. Who will allow that harmonization? The orchestrator through the quant network of the overledger. How so? To fully leverage the potential to make cross-border payments faster, cheaper, and more transparent. So, would we see a program that focuses on harmonization? You already have the answer to that. It's basically that operating system of the overledger. That's an operating system for blockchain that is blockchain agnostic, because it harmonizes ISO 222 for enhancing cross-border payments. And who's been driving the whole thing of this work? It's the BIS, and it's the committee. Like you just saw a guy from that committee. So here's the other thing. Would we see more of that global ISO 222 adoption by payment system operators? I think the answer again is yes. Do we have anything else to back up the hypothesis? Well, back to the whole thing of fragmentation. From page 1 of 13 of the Harmonization of ISO 222 from the BIS, you see that the fragmentation payment messaging standard across the globe has been a major factor of high cost, slow speed, and lack of transparency. They understand that you can't do that anymore with Swift MT messaging. That's why you have ISO 222. But this is my aha moment for you guys. It's about how this article, straight from the BIS, reflects on the contributions of a work stream and convened by the CPMI under G20 cross-border payments program and chaired by Michelle Bullock of the Reserve Bank of Australia. It's a joint CPMI Swift payments market practice. Okay, so again, Swift. I wasn't making something up in regards to an update in the thumbnail, but who is she, and more importantly, why we mentioned the Reserve Bank of Australia. Now, this will blow you away. The Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, is the chair and holder of the Secretariat, everybody, of ISO TC 307, the Quant Network Standard, the International Organization for Standardization Technical Committee for Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Technology since 2016. And again, their focus is interoperability, terminology, privacy, security, auditing, governance, reference architecture. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. We established everything that we need to for the most part. What about Ripple? Well, Ripple is in fact, part of the Bank for International Settlements Task Force for Cross-Border Payments, cited from payments.com. Spelled with no A, it's just PYMNTS.com if you want the exact citation. And that was announced back in August of 2023. So they definitely have that thing going on with the BIS. So check mark. Done. All right. What about Stellar? Basic search. Stellar does in fact have a partnership with the BIS. Where are the areas of highlights? Stellar had a thing with G20 Tech Sprint in regards to being shortlisted, at least with ANZ, in a G20 Tech Sprint hosted by BIS and, of course, Bank of Indonesia. It was a partnership created, which was a prototype solution for CBDC on Web3. And, of course, there's the whole thing of, some other things, right? Liberty Consortium. We understand the whole thing of recently MasterCard, Franklin Templeton. But, again, that's all there. And that dates back to 2022. So that's a real thing with Stellar. Again, Stellar, stronghold, part of the Stellar ecosystem. So you could say pretty much that's that flagship, if you will, the part of that umbrella. All right, what about Zinfin, XDC? Does XDC have partnership with the BIS? Yes. XDC Network collaborated with the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub on blockchain for SME finance. So, cool. Well, what's the other citation? November 11th, Project Enbridge reached minimal viable product stage. And of course, we know about the whole thing of R3 Corda, XDC, R3, and also Quant, right? So that's cool. What about one that we don't really talk about here a lot? Algorand. In this citation from the Bank for International Settlements on bis.org/review R221031J.PDF from Banca d'Italia Eurosistema, I can't pronounce it right. It's the implementation of CBDCs by central bank challenges, risks, and opportunities. What do we have? Jump right to it, Max. Well, you see here about the whole concept of a trigger solution. Is a trigger solution part of a flip of a switch? You pull a trigger? I don't know. But remember how we talked about tips earlier? So you have ALGO with tips. You have ALGO with the Eurosystems instant payments. You have Banco d'Italia committed to provide a DLT agnostic protocol to synchronize the asset leg and cash leg, making an instantaneous DVP transaction possible on a 24/7 basis. And people wonder why their head guy receives some of these awards, right? So this work was carried out in cooperation, with Algorand. And what else does it say? The results of our experiments were reported in a recent paper published by the Banca d'Italia Markets Infrastructure Payment System Series, arousing considerable interest and requests for collaboration, as happened by the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub and the Bank of England. My goodness gracious, great balls of fire. All right. In conclusion, look at this from the M10 System Overview PDF. Just to wrap it up here in a bit, before we kick it to Gilbert Verdian, believe it or not, the M10 service is a cloud solution that scales to process millions of payments per second. The ledgers are available 24/7. Again, back to the reference of FedNow, because that's a 24/7 system. Allowing payments to be settled instantly in the same currency or across currencies. And again, that's a big, big deal. You better believe it. And you can see how it all comes together, whether it's the US dollar, the euro, or the euro system. And again, the shared services. Again, one ledger, shared ledger. FX exchange, escrow, directory. Again, how it all comes together through what? the M10 cloud-based architecture. My key thing is, from what I researched, I didn't see Hedera directly with, you know, the BIS, but Hedera is part of the RLN. Okay, so it's like, okay, there's that. There's other ones like IOTA is part of ISO 222, but I didn't see that IOTA had a direct partnership with the BIS. So will there be ISO coins that won't go to 1 million plus TPS? I think the answer is yes. I don't think you will see Cardano do that, but it doesn't mean that in the future they can't partner with the BIS. So there is that. The ones I gave you is what I've done the research on, but I did look into some of the other key ones. So currently standing, Hedera, you know, even without the M10 would be the highest for the ISO coins as far as TPS, but it ain't all about just TPS. You know what I mean? So that's where it's at for me. All right. We're going to play this real quick video in regards to Gilbert Verdian. Listen to what he has to state. We'll come right back and then we'll wrap it up.
The time is running out. You know, CBDCs will come. They will be forced to be integrated into your environments. So you're better off starting today rather than waiting for a mandate for you to do it.
Welcome back. That was a pretty cool little clip. So with that said, do me a favor, you listen to the entire outline and simply type this into the comments. And that is 1 MTPS, as in 1 million plus TPS. And I'll know that you listen to the entire outline. Really appreciate you guys listening to these outlines. As the saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. Thanks for watching. Have a blessed rest of your day. We'll see you on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. It's just a few taps. You can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.